Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. The younger viewers of this channel won't remember this, but those old enough to remember the horrendous days of the early 80s. I mean, great times, party times, bright colours. But the political situation wasn't great, was it? There was that constant threat of nuclear annihilation. We still had the glory days of Brezhnev, the hardliner, followed by, I think it was Andropov. Then you had Chenyenko. And then, of course, finally, we got Gorbachev, who Margaret Thatcher said was a man we could do business with. Of course, you had him in Russia. We had Margaret at number 10 and Ronald Reagan in the White House. Weird times. It's the last time Britain and America was so strong in the world, I think. But this threat of nuclear annihilation was still there. You had the film War Games, which was so very prescient of its time, based on a true story as it happened. But then the Americans brought out a film, made-for-TV film, called The Day After. And The Day After terrified America. Ronald Reagan said it was one of the most frightening things he ever saw. And it was about the after effects of a nuclear war and how America would basically fall apart. You watched that and it was truly terrifying. And then the BBC brought out Threads. Threads made The Day After look like something from the Disney company. Threads to this day remains one of the most harrowing pieces of television ever made. I have a copy of it. I could put it on now. It is truly horrific. It is quite clear that nuclear war is not what we want. There were quite jovial moments. The BBC used to push this thing quite often. You get it 3 or 4 times a week. Protect and survive. You had this very manly voice. Big actor, I can see his name. Used to do the Barrett Holmes adverts. But you'd have protect and survive. And what the government were doing, it was a public information film. And they were saying that in the event of a nuclear war, you'd have a 4-minute warning. Now, what you'd do in that 4 minutes is take the screwdriver to your doors, take off all the doors in your house, build yourself a little wooden tent, if you like, pad it all around with sandbags, get as much food as you could get in there, get as much water as you could get in there, get your people in there, and bring lots of plastic bags so you can poo in it, and then wait until the nuclear war's gone, and then stay there as long as you can and come out only when the world is safe again, which would be about 800 years. Of course, it's all bollocks. First bomb goes off, your house is blown to smithereens, and you are just a smear on the countryside, you know. And of course, if you've got a 4-minute warning, it takes you 2.5 minutes to find the bloody screwdriver, Margaret. And who the hell's got sandbags lying about? It was sheer utter bollocks. Propaganda. But it was part of the fear, the state of fear that existed. And then the Russian Federation all fell apart and everything became safe and nice again. The only problem then, of course, is without having the big bad of the Russians. The Islamists think, now it's our time to shine. And so we had a peaceful couple of years until they got their acting gear and all went to shit again, didn't it? Hey ho. But that fear of nuclear annihilation we thought had gone once and for all. And now it's back. And now it is truly back. Joe Biden, the arsehole in the White House, has said, oh, here you go, Ukraine, have some of our missiles. You fire them into Russia. It's fine. You can do that now. Russia have warned that those missiles are NATO missiles. If they are fired into Russian territory, he says that is an act of war declared by NATO on Russia. He says, and Russia will respond not on Ukraine, but on NATO. Biden is pushing us to the doors of World War III. And there's at least 4 countries involved, possibly 5, that are nuclear capable countries that are involved in this. How does he think this is going to end? It's not going to end well for any of us, is it? Now, Sweden have just started handing out these booklets, the Prepare for War booklets. 5 million Swedish households are being sent emergency booklets telling them to prepare for war, what to do in the event that war is called. It's telling that all young men of fighting age are to report. And it's saying that if you've got the ability to bunker down, to do so and prepare for nuclear Armageddon. This is what Sweden is telling its people. The Germans are putting their army on full alert. The Poles, who have been building up their army for quite some time, are already on alert, and they are heightening their alert levels. The French are recalling their troops back from leave. It's almost as though the whole of Europe knows this war is coming. But this war in Europe will have been started by the Americans, who gave permission for the Ukraine to fire NATO missiles into Russia. I think we, if necessary, need to start bombing Ukraine. We've got to stop Ukraine from doing this. If we have to target them, those missiles that the Ukrainians have, to stop them firing them, I think we should. And we should tell the Americans to go fuck themselves and keep their big Yankee noses out of Europe. Now, Trump says he will stop the war. Trump says he will stop the war almost immediately because he's going to turn off the tap. He's going to stop all funding, all of it. They're not going to get another brass farthing from America, and Europe can't afford to keep funding them. Starmer's just given, of course, another £7.5 million worth of drones. But, you know, it's okay because it's our money and he can just keep doing it. He thinks he's like the owner of a business who thinks that the company's money is his personal money. It's not how it works. But all these warmongers, all these people keep saying, no, we've got to go. There's nothing happening. War's coming. War doesn't have to come. If war's going to come, make sure every single politician in Europe has their children on the front line first. Let's line up every politician's child on the front line facing the Russians and say, go on then. Push the button. You start the war. None of them will. They're happy to send us to fight, but they never will. And if they start this and they want an obvious war, we need to make sure that we give them a war. But we're not fighting the Russians. We're fighting the real enemy. The politicians, the political classes in every single country. We take out the politicians. They're the evil. They're the real bad guys here. They're the ones looking to wipe out Europe. And they want it. They want a war in Europe because white Europeans are a problem to the New World Order because we're uppity and argue and have thoughts. We don't follow and don't do. We don't obey. And the plan has always been to wipe out white Europeans. It's the whole point of the replacement. Only it's quicker if we blow each other up. So let's tell the politicians no. And if they want to start a war, we give them the war they want. The war against the politicians. Russia is not my enemy. My enemy is Starmer. Who's your enemy? Thanks a lot.